The younger neighbor storms across his driveway and gets in the old man's face, voice dripping with disgust. "Listen, you pathetic cripple. I'm sick of watching you clunk around on that fake leg every damn morning. It's bringing down my property values." 86-year-old Thomas Rivera grips his cane tighter, feeling the weight of the Medal of Honor case in his breast pocket as other neighbors stop their morning routines to stare. None of them know this broken old man once carried 3 wounded soldiers through enemy fire, losing his leg to save theirs. What happens next will change everything this bully thought he knew about respect. If you believe our veterans deserve better treatment, hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments. Have you ever witnessed someone disrespecting a hero without knowing their story? Stay until the end, because Thomas is about to teach this neighborhood a lesson they'll never forget. Thomas Rivera had lived quietly on Maple Street for 3 years now. His small house sat at the end of the block, with a neat garden and an American flag by his front door. Most neighbors knew him as the polite old man who walked slowly to get his mail each morning. They saw his prosthetic leg, his cane, his careful movements, but they never asked questions. His neighbor Jake Morrison was different. Jake was 32, loud, and always angry about something. He drove a big truck, played music too loud, and thought the whole world owed him something. From the day Thomas moved in, Jake made it clear he didn't like having an old disabled guy next door. This Tuesday morning started like any other. Thomas stepped outside to get his mail, moving slowly down his front walkway. His prosthetic leg made a slight clicking sound with each step. It was quiet, but in the early morning silence, Jake heard it from his driveway. Jake slammed his coffee cup down on his truck hood and marched over. His face was red with anger. "You've got to be kidding me," Jake shouted, making sure everyone could hear. "Every single morning it's the same thing. Click, click, click with that fake leg of yours." Thomas stopped walking and looked up at the younger man. He didn't say anything, just gripped his cane a little tighter. Jake wasn't done. He stepped closer, his voice getting louder. "Do you have any idea what it's like trying to enjoy a peaceful morning and hearing that constant noise? It's like living next to a broken machine." Other neighbors started coming outside. Mrs. Peterson from across the street stood on her porch in her bathrobe. The Johnson family stopped loading their car for work. Even old Mr. Williams wheeled his trash bin to the curb slower than usual, clearly listening. Thomas tried to continue toward his mailbox, but Jake blocked his path. "Oh no, you're not walking." "Away from me," Jake snarled. "I've been patient for 3 years. 3 years of putting up with your limping around, making noise, bringing down the whole neighborhood's image." The crowd of neighbors grew larger. Some watched from their windows. Others stepped out onto their porches. A few pulled out their phones. Jake's wife Sarah appeared at their front door. "Jake, what are you doing?" she called out, but he ignored her. "Look at him," Jake announced to everyone watching. "This is what we have to deal with every day. Some broken down old man who can't even walk properly." Thomas felt heat rising in his chest, but he stayed calm. His fingers moved to touch the small velvet case in his jacket pocket. Inside was a star-shaped medal hanging from a blue ribbon, the highest honor his country could give. But these people didn't need to know that. "Not yet, sir," Thomas said quietly. "I'm just trying to get my mail." Jake laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Just trying to get your mail? You're trying to ruin my property value is what you're doing. Who wants to buy a house next to someone who looks like they belong in a nursing home?" More neighbors gathered. The Martinez family from 2 houses down. The college students who rented the place on the corner. Even the mailman stopped his truck to watch. Thomas took a small step forward, but Jake grabbed his arm. "Don't you dare ignore me," Jake hissed. "I work hard to maintain this neighborhood's reputation. I keep my lawn perfect, my house painted, my driveway clean. And then there's you, stumbling around like some kind of charity case. Sarah Morrison ran over from their house. Jake, stop this right now. You're making a scene. I don't care who sees, Jake shot back. Maybe it's time everyone knew how I feel about having damaged goods living next door. The words hit Thomas like a punch to the stomach. Damaged goods. He'd heard worse in his life, but something about saying it in front of all these people made it sting more. A few neighbors looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Peterson shook her head and went back inside. But others kept watching. Some even seemed to agree with Jake. You know what your problem is? Jake continued, his voice carrying across the U.S. entire street. You think because you're old and hurt that everyone should feel sorry for you. Well, I don't. I think you should move somewhere more suitable for people like you. People like me? Thomas asked, his voice still calm, but with an edge now. Yeah, people like you. Broken. Used up. Taking up space that normal families could use. The crowd was getting bigger. Cars were slowing down as they passed. Someone was definitely recording with their phone. Jake paced back and forth in front of Thomas, like he was giving a speech. I bet you never even did anything important with your life. Probably just got hurt in some accident and now everyone's supposed to treat you like you're special. Thomas's hand tightened around the Medal of Honor case in his pocket. He thought about October 15th, 1968. The jungle in Vietnam. The sound of gunfire. His 3 wounded soldiers crying for help. The explosion that took his leg but saved their lives. I pay my taxes. Thomas said simply. I keep my property clean. I don't bother anyone. Oh, you don't bother anyone? Jake's voice went even higher. Tell that to my wife, who has to listen to your leg clicking every morning. Tell that to the Johnsons, who can't sell their house because potential buyers see you limping around the neighborhood. This was getting out of hand. Some neighbors looked angry at Jake, but others nodded in agreement. The crowd was split. Jake turned to address everyone watching. How many of you are tired of this? How many of you think maybe it's time for certain people to find more appropriate places to live? A few people shifted uncomfortably. Nobody answered, but nobody told Jake to stop either. Thomas started walking toward his mailbox again. This time, Jake didn't just block him. He pushed him. Thomas stumbled backward, his prosthetic leg making it hard to keep balance. He caught himself with his cane, but barely. The crowd gasped. Even Jake looked surprised at what he'd done, but he didn't apologize. Instead, he pointed at Thomas struggling to stay upright. See? This is exactly what I'm talking about. He can't even stand up properly. What happens when he falls on the sidewalk and sues the city? What happens when his house becomes a safety hazard because he can't maintain it? Thomas straightened himself up slowly. His back hurt from the stumble, but he managed to stand tall again. Jake wasn't finished. He walked in a circle around Thomas, talking to the crowd like Thomas wasn't even there. I've been researching property law, Jake announced. There are regulations about neighborhood standards, about maintaining community values. Maybe it's time we looked into whether this situation is even legal. The threat was clear. Jake was talking about trying to force Thomas out of his home. Some neighbors looked shocked. Mrs. Johnson covered her mouth with her hand. Even the college kids seemed uncomfortable now, but Jake kept going. His voice got louder and meaner with each word. I work 2 jobs to afford living here. I deserve to come home to a decent neighborhood, not some medical ward. I shouldn't have to explain to my kids why the neighbor looks like he belongs in a hospital. Thomas felt something break inside his chest. Not his heart. That had been broken before and healed stronger. But his patience, his willingness to stay quiet. He looked around at all the faces watching him. Some pitying, some disgusted, some just curious like he was entertainment for their morning. Jake stepped right up to him again, close enough that Thomas could smell coffee on his breath. So here's what's going to happen, old man. You're going to start looking for somewhere else to live. Somewhere more suitable. Because I'm done being patient, and I'm done being nice about this situation. Thomas reached into his jacket pocket. His fingers closed around the small velvet case. After 70 years, it was time to show them who they were really talking to. The crowd fell silent as Thomas slowly pulled out a small blue box. His hand shook slightly as he opened it. Inside, hanging from a light blue ribbon with 13 white stars, was a 5-pointed bronze star. The Medal of Honor, America's highest military decoration. Jake's mouth fell open. The entire street went dead quiet. Thomas's voice was still calm, but now it carried the weight of decades. October 15th, 1968. Firebase Charlie in Vietnam. My unit was pinned down by enemy fire. 3 of my soldiers were wounded and couldn't move. I went back for them 3 times. The third trip, a mortar exploded right next to me. He touched his prosthetic leg. I lost my leg getting those boys out. But they all made it home to their families. 2 of them named their sons after me. Jake stood frozen, staring at the medal. Thomas looked around at all his neighbors. The ones who had watched Jake bully him. The ones who had recorded. The ones who had said nothing. I've lived in this country for 86 years. I've served it, bled for it, and lost part of my body defending it. I've never asked anyone for special treatment. I just wanted to live quietly and get my mail in peace. The silence stretched on. Jake's face had gone from red to white. Thomas closed the metal case and put it back in his pocket. Now, if you'll excuse me, he said to Jake, I'd like to get my mail. This time, nobody stopped him.